Hi there. In this lecture, Boris Spassky is playing against Petrosian. This is in round 11 of their World Championship match in 1969. D4 from Spassky, we see knight f6. From Petrosian, c4, e6. Knight f3, b6. So Queen's Indian territory. a3, bishop b7. Knight c3, d5. e3, knight bd7. c takes d5, e takes d5, bishop e2, bishop d6, b4 from Boris Spassky. This does weaken some light squares in White's camp. Potentially the c4 square could be strategically sensitive. Petrosian castles, Spassky follows and castles. a6, queen b3, queen e7, rook b1, and now with this configuration there's a tactical kind of positional move played by Petrosian. Can you spot what that is? If I give you 5 seconds to pause the video, what would you play here with black? Okay, it's knight e4. This is actually possible here with this configuration. We have a4. If knight takes d5, we just take on d5 and play knight c3, forking the queen and rook. So, okay, we have a4. The other knight comes to reinforce now this pawn and the knight. b5, knight takes c3, queen takes c3, knight e4, queen c2, rook fc8, bishop b2, c6, d takes, bishop takes c6, queen b3, queen d7. We have the a pawn being guarded. b5, this does actually create a nice protected square, c4. Could that be an outpost square later? a5, bishop b7, knight e5, queen drops back, rook fd1, and now queen h4. This does create, or try to create, some light square weaknesses, and it's actually a rather tricky position with the knight on e4. If rook f1, then knight d2, forking queen and rook. So we actually see g3, some light square weaknesses here. Do these weaknesses add up to anything? The queen drops back, f3, the knight goes to g5, h4, knight e6, and now f4. So there is a real set of light square weaknesses emerging in the position. f6, knight f3, knight d8, king f2, knight f7, knight d2, and here is a key move from Petrosian. For 200 points, what would you play in this position, given that there's a collection of light square weaknesses in White's camp? Is there any way to amplify these light square weaknesses? It's a very cute move here. Okay, it's a rook c4. It tries to liberate this bishop, try and open up this bishop on this diagonal. We have queen d3. If knight takes c4, d takes, this situation with rook e8, the thing is, it's not just about this bishop being liberated. There's also a few other things going on here. The passed pawns are dangerous. Also, the queen could potentially come over to the king's side. So, for example, if d5, bishop c5, this situation is fairly horrible for White. Yeah, two connected passed pawns here. It's going to be, quite crushing soon from this position for White. So queen d3 was played, but now rook e8 building up, bishop f3. Here, if knight takes c4, again some of the same elements are evident. This is just black sitting on White here with great passed pawn potential, and for example here the passed pawns constitute a winning advantage. So okay, so bishop f3 was played, bishop b4, and now bishop a3. The dark square bishops come off, And then knight d6, just leaving that knight again. Knight d6. We have queen. We have rook e1 on the f5. Rook a to a1, and now knight e4 check. Bishop takes e4. F takes e4. The queen drops back, and again just leaving that rook to be taken. Yeah, this is a real light square celebration for an exchange sacrifice. We have rook a2. If knight takes c4 here, just out of interest, d takes is still strong for the passed pawns. And also, there are other options. So blockading here, black is in a fantastic position here to just increase the positional advantage. Even if the exchange down, the two connected passed pawns here would be absolutely a winning advantage. For example, like this, with b3 just in time. For b2, that's just a winning position, winning the rook there. So rook a2, the rook's double, and now it is actually taken. D takes, and Spassky doesn't want to be completely sat on. He liberates, tries to liberate with d5. It's taken, rook d1, but the thing is, c3. White's tricks are not enough here. Rook c2. We have a really cool move in this position for 100 points. What would you play here? Okay. Queen h3. That's a very tactical unpinning move indeed. Rook g1 is played. If rook takes d5, then check, and then actually check here, we win the queen. So that's the point there. So rook g1. We have queen g4, king g2, queen f3 check, and now taking out e3. Yeah, things are going really bad for white. f5, queen drops back to c5, rook f1, b4. The passed pawns are being pushed. f6. This is ignored with b3. Rook c f2. c2. Queen c1. e3. f7 check is tried. King f8. Rook f5. But now just b2. Yeah, the pawns are really crashing through. We have queen takes b2. And now c1 is played. Absolutely a winning position after c1. Spassky plays a desperate queen takes g7 check. If rook takes c1, he's got a sense of humour with this move. If rook takes c1, this endgame is lost because of e2. That pawn is queening. So queen takes g7 check. A sense of humour here. King takes. Rook g5 check. And with this, actually, Spassky did resign. The only way to win it, well, one of the only ways to win it is if black played king h6, walking into rook f6 checkmate. But black does have king h8, and the queen here is supporting the f8 square, so f8 is not winning. We just take that, so it's absolutely winning for black, this final possession. So Spassky resigned with rook g5 check. So quite a positionally crushing game. This game, yeah, did kind of excite me with the positional exchange sacrifice to amplify the light square weaknesses. So key takeaway point: when the opponent has a collection of weaknesses on a certain colour, can you amplify those weaknesses? Can you, for example, use a bishop on that colour and try and exploit those light square weaknesses, as well as potentially get passed pawns? There are a lot of positional advantages gained from this kind of exchange sacrifice which help improve the position. We need to look at the long-term trend when we do a positional exchange sacrifice. Some players just don't entertain the idea, but sometimes it's the only way to improve the position. I remember thinking about quite a few games when I played in Gibraltar, very long time control, that the notion of the positional exchange sacrifice really helped me win several games in the Hertfordshire League later, because I realised that in some positions you really do need a positional exchange sacrifice. It really needs to be part of the toolkit. So when you do it, it's kind of, you just need enough evidence that the trend is increasing of your advantage. And here, yeah, I mean, with the passed pawn potential, the trend's going to, in general, go up unless they're eliminated. But there's also king safety issues. The bishop's being liberated. There's a lot of indicators which give sufficient evidence for this exchange sacrifice being sound, as well as trying to concretely calculate as much as possible that trend evidence is important. So a really interesting positional game from a Queen's Engine. It's also notable that Michael Adams perhaps has been modelling Tigran Petrosian's repertoire, and he's one of the most solid British grandmasters going. So this Queen's Engine defence with knight f3, not playing knight c3. So b6, you know, the general light square strategy is very, very, very interesting. It's solid, but actually, if white indulges in some extra light square weaknesses, great things can happen later from the black perspective. So that c4 square, Adams even beat Kasparov when he was young in a simultaneous with kind of using a fantastic light square campaign. Kasparov did something similar, some similar weaknesses on light squares, and it just seems in the nature of this opening that the light squares can sometimes become weak for white. So yes, it was a very, very nice example, and this, you know, provocation there to create even more collection of light square weaknesses. But yes, fun really was had with this rook c4. It's a very, very nice game indeed. I hope you enjoyed this game as much as me. A positional masterpiece at a World Championship match. Okay, thanks so much.